IDS, back again. Here we go. Are you sick of me yet? You want me to go back to making no videos again? I will. I'll do it. Okay, today's list. The 2008 Toa Nuva. Now, I think people would probably be like, oh, why aren't you ranking the Fantoka or the Mystica? It's because these guys are the team. I think with the Fantoka Makuta and the Mystica Makuta, it's almost like these guys have been designed in two halves. So I think it's probably best to keep them separate. Maybe I'll go circle back around and do a list of, you know, the entire Fantoka line being ranked and the Mystica line being ranked separately. But we'll see. Now, my opinions on the Fantoka. 2008 was an interesting year. From the Lego's perspective, it was proposed to them by the Bionicle team that 2008 would be a finale of sorts, where they would probably just cut it off here, bring back the old team, the classic team, and then Bionicle would take a break for a while. I think what's pretty understated in terms of what killed off Bionicle is, again, this push to, I guess, keep rehashing things, maybe pulling things out a little bit longer than it should have. People also discount the fact that 2008 was the year the economic crisis happened. People don't really touch on that point. We were on our third consecutive year of Inika/Paraka builds, for sure. And there was growing competition from other brands. But after this point, toys kind of fell to the wayside, if you think about it. Like, again, a lot of families were hurting. People didn't have as much disposable income as they once did. And I think all of that played into the fact of Bionicle's downfall. So I think it was probably a good idea that the Bionicle team had. It would have been fantastic if, you know, I personally love the twist ending where Makuta wins, the Igniter is shot into space, and then we're like, whoa, what's going to happen? The original plan of Bionicle leaving off there for a hiatus or to end would have been crazy. It was really like the Infinity War moment when Thanos won. I love it. I think it's great. That alone makes 2008 story just mind-blowing. One of my favorite twists. I remember back in the day reading on the BZP forums, I want to say around 2005, someone had the theory that everything was happening inside of a robot. They were talking about, you know, the domes and certain landmarks on Maranui and the dual moons that Metronui had as the eyes. And I remember people thinking this dude is crazy. Little do you know, that was the plan all along. And I just really think it was a really great executed plan. And honestly, probably was the last great moment of Bionicle. Of course, 2009 has some good sets as well, but the story really feels like an afterthought, and the fact they didn't really flesh any of it out really means it's just this weird vestige at the end of the series, which is a shame. I think most people can probably agree on this point. It doesn't seem like these Toa were designed to be the Toa Nuva. I think post the classic era, I don't think much consideration was made for major character continuity. G1 never paid much mind to design continuity regardless, but I think there are key elements of these Toa that makes it seem like these were never intended to be the Toa Nuva. And a lot of the things they may have in common may be incidental or reading into it. Another thing as well, to separate the Fantoka from the Mystica. Story-wise, obviously the Fantoka are designed to be aerial characters, so they have more heavy-duty flight gear, while the Toa Nuva Mystica are supposed to be quite close to the ground. They're in the swamp. They only need short-term flight. So the Fantoka get the blessing of all having unique flight devices. Liwa has the jetpacks, Kopaka the wings, Pohatu the propellers, while the Mystica all have the exact same tiny wings, tiny jets. Calls into question why the adaptive armor didn't put the Fantoka in that mode when they entered the swamp later, but we know we're limited by the set limitations. With the adaptive armor, there's such a wasted opportunity here. I think with the fact that LEGO built this into the story, they gave them free rein to essentially continue making new versions of the Nuva without constantly having to fabricate them. Oh, they got mutated. Oh, they fell into Protodermis. Oh, the Red Star shocked them. They had a free pass to basically give us new versions of the Nuva every year. Something they sort of capitalized on with Hero Factory. So it is such a missed opportunity. that when 2008 ended, we pivoted away from the story pertaining to them, given they had a built-in story reason to be the continued focus, which is, again, things panned out. They were clearly not the way they were planned, so we're stuck with what we have, these being essentially the final sets of Toa. Did Toa go out on a bang? Well, that's up to personal opinion. Personally, let's talk about it, I guess. Okay. Who is my least favorite Toa Nuva of the 2008 versions? Again, like the other versions where multiple character iterations have been discussed, the representation of that character is going to play a role versus the set design themselves. The Nuva especially, given the fact that they it's not fully guaranteed, but it doesn't really feel like they were designed to be the Nuva. So their standings as sets in a vacuum, similar to the Mari, are going to be very different to how I feel with them in this ranking. So, for example, 5th place is going to be Tahu. Easy choice for me. Is Tahu a perfectly functional set? Could I look at this and say to someone who isn't a Bionicle fan or someone who's going into Bionicle who picked this up in 2008 and say, this is a bad set? No, I could not. This isn't Pridak. Like, this thing is still a completely functional, decent action figure. However, as Tahu Nuva, in my opinion, up there with Onuum, up there with Huki, Mari, Matoran, this is one of the worst character representations we've ever had. This is terrible as Tahu. This sucks as Tahu in every single way, in my opinion. Especially painful because Tahu is one of basically 2 characters that they bothered to make their back-to-back forms pretty analogous. Tahu and Tahu Nuva are clearly the same character. There's clearly some thought putting into making sure that this was Tahu. And then it's funny because we skip the Mystique and we go to the stars, and of course, again, there's a better representation of Tahu. Even in G2, Tahu is Tahu. No matter what form he is, he's Tahu. This guy is completely unrecognizable. And it doesn't really stop there in terms of everything. So, Tahu's weapon is a shield built around the Borok Kyle shield. I kind of like the little spinning blade things. Some of my complaints with the Toa Metru was that the heads of their weapons were pretty neat pieces, but I didn't like what their connectee points are. This almost feels like the top of a weapon that you can use for a staff or a spear or something. These are neat little pieces. And the fact that it spins on one of those frictionless pins makes this set feel like it has a little extra play function. You can spin that thing as a little fidget spinner thing for you to give you some entertainment. Is this a great weapon for Tahu? No. Tahu has always been a sword wielder. It feels like part of his character to have a flame sword. We have not really had a Tahu set that doesn't have a flame sword. 2016, it's not really a sword. It's some sort of weird Tonfa sword thing. But it's closer to a sword than this. This almost feels like this would have been a good fit for a Toa of Air or something. Some sort of like, you could call it the Cyclone Shield or something. Doesn't feel like a Tahu weapon. Spinning shuriken thing is kind of strange. The limbs are a bit odd. It's interesting on a weird character through line that Tahu leads the Mystica, Kopaka leads the Fantoka. Both have the bigger Inaika feet and both have the Paraka limbs as their limbs. Again, that's probably a weird coincidence. I just found it interesting. But they're terrible. His limbs are terrible. Why on planet Earth do they give him Metru armor on Visorak bones for these legs? What the hell? He just looks... It's like, why? You've made him look completely weak. Headcanon or not, Tahu was kind of in my top 3 strongest Toa. I feel like after Onu and Pohatu, I envisioned Tahu as the 3rd strongest Toa. This ain't it. Again, it's just a very odd choice. It just looks weird. Why does this guy have no thighs or biceps? Why is he scrawny and then his legs like billow out at the end? Very odd choice. Doesn't look great. Gives him very strange proportions. The dark red The dark red is again, but at this point, Bionicle was locked into the Metru colors as the default colors, so I can't knock him for that. But I do find it interesting that 4 out of the 6 Mystica sets have Marder red. All of the Makuta have it, even by virtue of just having the Marder red in their Naira Sky Blaster, Naira Ghost Blaster. Is it Ninra or Naira? In their Sky Blaster, they have the Marder red pump. Krika has Marder red in his color scheme. Onua has Marder red in his color scheme. Onua has Marder red as a highlight color. Tahu does not get Marder red. Why? Again, it feels like one of those caveats that, we're not using Marder red this time. Marder red is reserved to certain special sets. The standard red Toa has to have dark red. But when one of the members of the team has Marder red in their color scheme, it makes Tahu not being the right color more jarring. And it would be kind of neat to have got a dark red How, but the big elephant in the room is this mask is not a How in any way possible. There is nothing about it that is Howish, which is the greatest miss of any character representation ever, considering the How and Tahu are the face of Bionicle. I think a lot of people were clamoring and would have loved a How-style mask with a Metru connection, which we got on Likan, which we got on Maxilos, but a new Toa Nuva that resembled a How would have been fantastic. Instead, we get this weird Knight, Optimus Prime sort of thing. There's something about the dome of this head as well that covers the eyes. Tahu has always had very mean eyes. Tahu's quite an aggressive character, and that's always been conveyed in the How. The shape of this dome means when you point Tahu's eyes head down to give him sort of a mean look, it makes him look sad. Tahu looks sad in this build. When you tilt him down to give him a stern kind of look when posing, he ends up looking sad, and that's miserable. Tahu's not very tall as well. He falls into the bottom 3 of the shortest Toa of this team, which feels wrong. I feel Tahu's a strong, upright leader. I spoke at length in the Huki video about how the backwards Paraka Torso absolutely sucks, and I basically hate every set that has it, bar Harley, and Harley really coasts on being a good representation of her character for that one. Sucks for Tahu. Again, he doesn't have the strong, tapered trap muscles to make him upright. He's just hunched and slouched, and it's just really odd. The one benefit of using this build, though, is the fact that the jets are able to connect like this. Kind of neat, kind of cool. I do like the fact that each of the Mystica, despite having the exact same flight propulsion, mixed it up how they use them. So Tahu's just cool in that sense, but it just looks unarmored. He's missing his chest. Put Onua Mystica's armor across that. Put some Hordika armor on that. Do anything. And again, because they didn't color match it, if this was silver, it would look less bad. He just looks like it's just really jarring. You just see the Technic lift arm element of this piece just there, and you can just see it's unarmored. It just looks terrible. He has black highlights, which I don't mind. Again, Jalamari has them, Likan has them, Tahu had them. Black highlights feels like a Toa or Fire thing, so I kind of dig that. Yeah, the Naira Sky Blaster, Ninra, whatever it is. I'm just going to continue to call them Sky Blasters. They're not Sky Blaster, they're Ghost Blasters or something like that. Sorry, I'm forgetting the name. They're the projectile weapon is okay. It feels like a single shot worse Kodak Blaster. I think, again, they were a bit scared of making these too powerful after the Squid Launcher, but you know what, a Midex Sky Blaster is pretty powerful. I think that thing can do some damage. These just feel like a limp in comparison, especially because, again, we're going off a wave where we had one of the best launchers LEGO ever made, followed by probably the most mid and forgettable one, is what it is. Even these spikes in the back of the feet, kind of cool. Add to the fins. Does it feel like Tahu? No. So if someone picked this setup as an action figure in 2008, I don't think it would be like, oh my god, this sucks, what is this? However, it's such a bad fit for this character. It's just really not good. If this set had a chest armor of some sort and was a different character, my thoughts would probably be very different. I'd still probably hate this body, but again, if it was more of a sheepish character who's a bit slouched, or some guy who like jets around with and isn't necessarily a strong character, I could maybe live with it. So I think, yeah, cover this chest, maybe color match the hips to the body. That would be the improvement on this. But as a representation of Tahu, this thing is booty cheeks. So Tahu, easily worst place. In 5th place, that would be Gali. Now, I have some interesting opinions on Gali. Gali, again, is another backwards Paraka torso build. So, not a fan of that. And unlike Harley Mari, it's not color matched, so it's super, super obvious. No chest covering to speak of, especially for a female character or a male. Both, it's a problem for both. It's like, the push would almost be to emphasize the chest area. Instead, we have negative chest area. It's like someone scooped. Gali had a double mastectomy. Why? I don't think it's not necessary to throw boobs on one of these characters, but even Gali Mada had some implication of chest detail. But I'm not gonna lie, I think I don't hate this set as much as most people. This might be a crazy hot take, but I actually prefer this as Gali than Gali Nuva, the original. People hate this mask. I don't mind it. A lot of the female masks, like later on, or a lot of female masks, people are like, oh my god, how could a female character have this? They've ruined this character. It makes no sense. How is this mask so masculine? The problem is, I find that the standard Toa Nuva Cao is more masculine than this mask. This mask is more nondescript gender-wise than the Cao Nuva, the standard one. The Cao Nuva has gaping gorilla nostrils and an open maw. It looks so masculine. But this is actually an improvement to me. Now, Miramax did a good job feminizing that mask, and the movie version of Gali Nuva, of course, is better in terms of mask recognition for that character and keeping it feminine. But when people dunk on this mask so much, my kind of counterpoint is it worse than the Cao Nuva? Again, matter of taste, but I don't think it's as crazy of a bastardization as people make it out to be. It was interesting to give Gali a scope. I think this is the first non-Toa of Ice to have this. We've had Matoran with scopes and stuff like that weren't from Kokoro or Kometru, but this is the first Toa. I made a joke about this in my laser guided weapons short. Like, she has a laser sight, scope, and crosshair. Is Gali blind? Does she need help? She can't aim for shit. Get her the Sanok as well. It's Mask of Accuracy. She needs all the help she can get. She's clearly a really bad shot. She came with unique shoulders, which was cool. It's great to see a new piece. I like this piece. Weirdly, was basically never used again. I think it was used as the headrest on the jet tracks, if I remember correctly, and never again. I don't know why LEGO insisted on reusing the Anika and Paraka torsos, creating new pieces to mix them up and not using them. They fall in the bin with the Karapa armor, where it's like, why did they not reuse these? She has them in a higher iteration, similar to how Kongu and Matoru and Anika had their armor, which is interesting to note. Means nothing. She has really heavy arms and legs. The Fantoku compared to the Mystica didn't feel like they were locked to a single limb type, but every Mystica has matching limbs up and down them. Kind of lame that Gali doesn't have a weapon at all. There are a few sets this wave that feel like that, but Kopaka actually had a bayonet, so he did have a tool. And while Onua's giant armor piece isn't a Toa tool, it does work to make the Ghost Blaster feel like a heavy weapon. This is literally just an aiming device, and again, when she already has an aiming device on her face and a laser scope, what is the point? Interestingly, and I don't know if people who don't own this set will realize that she has a unique neck construction. Why is this not loading? let me just refresh this. We've got Garly's instructions here. Ooh. Yeah, she's actually built with a little bit of a hunch, and she's the only set to do it. So in a way, I think this is probably the only time they tried to innovate on this, anything to do with this build. I say, you know, Toa Igniter had some flair on it, so did Lazovic, yada yada, whatever. But this is something different with this build. It puts to mind that, was this supposed to be Onua? Would this set work better as Onua? He's like, Garly has heavier, stronger limbs. She has somewhat of a hunch built in. It's not super obvious, but she does have a hunch. Would this have worked better as Onua? I don't know. I mean, none of these characters look like their characters, so it's hard to say that this would be a good Onua, but if you want to go off, like, certain tropes that this character has, yeah, maybe it would work better as Onua. But again, I think it's pretty good as any of them. I'll say this, I like the Metru feet. I think that lends some credence to her being a little bit more feminine. The ears, the rabbit ears. Again, maybe, I don't know if this is like a sexist statement, but that also feels a little bit more feminine. Whether that's right or wrong, I don't know. Media will often depict girls in that more so than they would do men. So, and again, it's a bit of a funny little creative thing to do with these Mystica wings. Kind of interesting. These Mystica wings live on in LEGO today, and these are still in sets today. I think most people, probably LEGO fans, probably wouldn't know that these are Bionicle intro pieces. They're the pieces that debuted with Bionicle, which is interesting. Her jets make sense on her feet. When you put her in a flying position, you point the feet down, they are pointing the right direction. She's okay. This is another one where, compared to Tahu, similar to Tahu, if someone bought this and built this and was playing around with it, I don't think there's any problems with it as a set. Like, I don't think it's great as a toy in comparison to what we had before. I'd probably recommend basically any other Inika build over her. But it's not awful. Like, if this was someone's first Bionicle, I don't think they'd be like, what the hell is this? But with the grander context of where we were in 2008, and we were still on reused builds, and, you know, this is a torso and hip combination that's identical to a set from 2006, you'd be like, well, okay, we've had what? The Paraka, the Inika, the Baraki, the Mari, and the Fantoku at this point. This is 6 waves in, and we're still basically on the same build. It becomes old hat. But again, I don't hate this as Garly. It's not that much worse or that much better than the 2002 Garly set in terms of masculine representations of Garly Mada. So she sits in my 5th place. 4th place is Onua. Is it shocking that the Mystica are all at the bottom? Maybe not. Probably not. I think most people, I mean, in the community, they were called the Mistaka when they came out, because people hated these sets. Onua Mystica gets the privilege of being the only Mystica with an actual Inika build instead of a Paraka build. On top of that, he has a new body piece. A piece of body armor for the Inika build, which is what I always champion. If you're going to redo the Inika build, give us new body pieces. Give us a Karabra armor. Give us this chest. And I really like this chest armor. I really like the fact that it only covers the top, which means you can customize the rest of the body. It's really cool. I'm glad we got it in white this wave as well on Krika. And then ended up getting it in Keat Orange on Madanui. I wish we got this piece a little bit more. It's a really cool piece. It's also another piece that could have worked on the Paraka, the backwards Paraka build for the other 2 Toa. I almost wish that they just gave this to all of them. Give this piece to the rest of them. And let them keep their crappy Paraka builds, but at least give them this piece. On their chest, hell, make it silver. They've all got silver Toa Nuva armor. Whatever. This is one that actually I think is a neat looking character. I don't think it works as Onua. Interestingly, because of the way that it's built, he has his hips in the position that makes his body 1 pin longer than a Toa Inika. So with that, with his Rakshi limbs and his upright head, he is the joint tallest Toa with Liwa. Onua, the tallest. Lewa only beats him because his fin is a little bit taller, but him and Lewa are the tallest Toa Nuva. What fucking planet are we on? That is completely wrong for Onua. What? That just is ridiculous. So, on that alone, that is just wrong. He is also the skinniest, scrawniest Toa out of all of them. Onua. What? I don't even think he needs to be a hulking gorilla man like he was in G2. Onua Mada wasn't some big roided out thing, but for him to be the skinniest Toa, bar none, of all of them is heresy. That is not Onua. It just doesn't work at all. It's just a poor fit. Other than that, the mask looks nothing like his previous iterations. It actually looks like a Krakan to me. Like, if the Krakan had adaptive armor, that's what this mask is. It would have been a great Makuta mask that was more neutral. I think a problem I had with the Makuta in 2008, it's not a problem, they worked for their sets, but I really wish the masks were less evil. You know, they don't all had giant teeth and look like bugs and stuff like that. A good mask that is versatile can be used in a lot of scenarios. Something like, well, any of the original masks can be on good guys or bad guys. Even a Brutaka mask, I feel like he's a villainous character. It's still more usable because it is still just a standard Kanohi. I don't think there's like massive teeth coming out of it or it's all mutated and stuff. If the Makuta all had masks like this that are a little bit more neutral, would have been cool, made them a little bit more useful. But yeah, to be fair, I do like this Kanohi a lot. It is pretty cool. I like that he technically has a little mohawk as well. I guess shout out to Naparu Runaika. The build is okay. Again, it works for like a really agile, skinny character. Again, poor fit for Onua. I like the fact that this piece interacts with the Metru chest. I love the Metru chest piece. It's so weirdly shaped, but it's so useful. And in Canister sets, it was used in so many different ways. Again, the following year, we got it as the life counter holder. It's crazy how useful that piece became, considering it was almost not on the original 2004 sets, as we can see in the comics and on all the prototypes. Onua's colors are weird. Like, he technically has his Nuva color scheme: black, silver, dark gray. But the dark gray is very odd. It's just here for some reason. It's almost like him and Karapa should have swapped their core body colors, because Karapa had a black hip and Inaika piece, while the rest of him was grey. Onu was the reverse. I guess I like getting the Rakshi limbs in silver. In fact, getting all the Rakshi, the Inaika, and the Paraka limbs in silver with the Mystica is a big plus for them. Get some recolored usable limbs. The fact that his, this lower portion of his body is silver. Again, if they were going to do that, and they could have made this top bit silver, and then we could have almost got a Nuva chest. I guess pastiche. The Mada red highlights are kind of cool. I kind of like the fact that this pin is red here. It gives him like a heart-light look. Don't think it's a great fit for Onua. It would have been cool if these were like dark green or something. Kind of shout out to his eye color. But I don't mind it. It's just funny that of the Toa Nuva, the one that has Mada red is Onua, not Tahu. Okay. He also has a side shield. Again, the Toa Nuva that has a shield is Onua, not Kopaka. In fact, Tahu's weapon is kind of a shield as well. Kopaka could screw twice. Weird tidbit, I guess. Every single Onua has his head connected to his chest. The Onua headpiece is actually connected via this pin on his chest to give him a slightly different connection point for Photok on his back. Doesn't give him a hunch, so it shouldn't really count, but it's just a weird trivia fact for you. Mentioned before, the fact that this giant piece sits over his sky... I keep calling them Sky Blasters. Ghost Blasters. What a stupid name, come to think of it. Ghostbusters? Go away. Gives him this heavy weapon look. I guess that works for an Earth Toa. It makes him look like he has a battering ram built into his weapon. Again, it's just a shame that he looks so skinny and scrawny, but the weapon to me sort of makes sense. I don't like the fact he doesn't really get an offensive tool or some sort of digging tool, though canonically he can unhook his shield and use it as a shovel, which is stupid. But yeah, he's, again, as a figure in a vacuum, similar to the other ones, he's perfectly functional, and he's probably my favorite figure out of those three. He does have a very unique look that, while he is using the Unica build, I don't think there's really any other Toa that looks like this. So that's kind of neat, but really poorly suited to Toa Nuva. I don't think there's a single thing beyond the color scheme that puts him in line with that. And again, him being the skinniest and joint tallest Toa is such a weird take on the character. Doesn't really make sense. I like his jets. Getting them in Mata Red was cool. I like the angle at the back of the legs. You know, you can fly around like Iron Man. Yay. But he goes in 4th place handily. Again, I don't really think there's any question about that. I think it was just sort of destined to be that the Mystica were going to be at the bottom. It is interesting because they almost feel very cohesive, and then comparatively the Fantoka don't, which I think is actually a knock. I think it was cool to see how the 3 Fantoka, what takes they had on flying devices. It wasn't just like the Mystica, give them all the same thing. It's like the flying stuff is such a minor part. The fact that they gave all 3 of these guys a unique propulsion, unique flying tools, was pretty great. And some of them got pretty creative. Seeing the Fantoka after the Mari, I was pretty happy. It looked like the Paraka torso was dying a death. And I was like, oh great, are they finally taking this one out of rotation? Great. And of course, the Mystica came around and slapped me in the face. And actually, in the Fantoka wave, the Toa Ignika had it as well, but didn't see Toa Ignika with those early prototypes. Sorry, not prototypes, leaks. I don't remember. But still, it wasn't one of the main sets, and Toa Ignika, I don't care. You can go to hell as far as I'm concerned. Okay, these 3. Similar to some of my top 3s of the other lists. These can vary from time to time. I think I'm going to put my number 1 as, what I would probably say was my childhood number 1 as well, but I also think that the set I'm going to put as number 1 is the most creative. But there is some debate between these 3. I think a lot of people love Liwa a lot, but I'm actually going to put him into number 3. Let me just stick him in there. Liwa is really cool looking. That is Onua. Go away. Really like Liwa. He's a simple Unica build, but he just looks great. That sword he has is great. It feels like an evolution of the katana that he has, just all roided out. Don't know why his electricity coursing through it feels like an Unica sort of thing, but you know, it's a neat piece with plenty of connection points, including like lightsaber connection points. It was great to see Toa Nuva use that piece later in the year as well. There's actually not that much to say about him. He's so standard of a build. He just looks really clean. With the Fantoka, they brought back dark grey as the default secondary color scheme, and you know, after the Metro years, the Rakshi, it's like, oh my god, more dark grey. Ugh. But Liwa, he rocks it. For whatever reason, lime green and dark grey was not a color palette that we'd seen. This is a striking color scheme, and it works surprisingly well. It's so funny because Liwa is a massive leg day skipper. He's got these super jacked Inika arms, the almost comedically oversized jetpacks on each arm on the Matora weapons, which is a great way to simply connect these to the arms while giving him such a top-heavy look. And the fact that, you know, his sword is so oversized, and the fact he just one arm wields this giant Midex Sky Blaster. I love the Midex Sky Blaster. I'm not sure if I prefer it to the Zamo launcher, mainly because the Zamo launcher, you build it from individual pieces, while this thing is a preformed piece. It almost feels like cheating. It's a bit un-Lego-y compared to the Zamo launcher, but you can't doubt its power. You can't doubt the fact that, you know, the problem with the multi-cartridge Zamo is it would pop out the top. But for Liwa, it looks so huge on him. It really feels like from carrying his giant weapons, he inadvertently got jacked. I honestly think these arms and legs should be swapped. They just he looks great in these pictures, but definitely in person, it almost feels like, whoa, what's happening here? Why does he look like that? And especially with the big clumpy boots, he really feels like he should have these thick arms. So. Personally, I think the arms and legs should have been swapped, and that would work a lot better with the set. It's interesting as well that by giving him the lime green torso, the color distribution sort of kind of gets flipped there compared to the limbs, but it looks cool. It's striking. It's also interesting that Lewa technically maintains one of his Mada colors, and it's always given me this sort of what-if scenario that what if everything matched this? So instead of recoloring Tahu to dark red, Gali to dark blue, Pohatu to orange, what if the color concept for the Toa Nuva was their primary color was going to become the old secondary color? So Lewa's primary color would be lime green, Pohatu's primary color would be tan, which would be great, and unique considering that, you know, next year Lego did bring back tan. You know, and it would have been bold. Tahu would have been orange, which would have been crazy. But given it's the adaptive armor, if they had stuck with that theme, while it would have been jarring, it might have worked. It worked on Lewa, I think. This color scheme worked for Lewa. It's like a what-if scenario. And I think people would have complained about it at the time, but at least actually, you know, they would have retained their actual colors. But let's stop living in the hypothetical. In terms of mask continuity, doesn't really look like any previous Miru. You could potentially say that the slots on the cheeks of the Miru became these vents. It's a bit of a stretch. It's a cool aerial mask. I like the fact that we continued using the visor from 2007. I think it makes sense for aerial sets as it did for the underwater sets. It's funny that both him and Pohatu have Mystica forms as well as their vehicle forms, and both of those sets, just purely by virtue of having the insert, the new type of insert with the extra fins, it gives them greater resemblance to their Nuva forms, given that both of those Toa had spiky faces. But yeah, I think you can really see in the vehicle form, considering how similar, well, it is the same build, just stripped out, how over the top the arms look compared to the legs. Like, Lewa, you gotta hit leg day, man. You can't skip that shit. I also kind of like him with the thinner feet here, better than the Clomper feet. Like, if those were dark grey, I think I may actually prefer the set with the smaller feet. If they'd switched his limbs and given him dark grey Metru feet, I think actually the set would have been elevated even further. But as it is, it looks pretty cool. I was honestly debating putting him in higher, but I think the arms, it's just a bit, I feel like that would needs to be fixed. Number 2, I'm going to put Kopaka. Now, Kopaka kind of coasts on just simple coolness to me. Haha, Ice Toa, cool. That is not Kopaka at all. Where's Kopaka? There's Kopaka. Kopaka has nothing interesting about it. He literally has nothing interesting about him. He may be an even more boring Enika build than Lewa. He's just that boring. His arms have hindered articulation, with the fact that the Paraka limb doesn't let you bend further than that, plus all sets with an Ica armor as shoulders blocks the articulation. The arms are too long as well. I think it, for some reason, it looks really obvious on Kopaka in this shot that his arms are too long. It's a bit misleading, the pictures, how they rendered this. This piece almost looks silver. And it would have been cool if we got that recolored in silver. Instead of you actually just get a gunmetal grey one, which doesn't actually technically match the dark grey, but I think they were just trying to match it up. Kopaka's scope is also on the wrong side. It's like this mask was designed as a mix of Wenua and Nuju Metru's masks. Even the cheek things. To me, this has so much Wenua in it, with the cheeks and the mouth area. And then obviously the scope being on the Nuju side instead of the Kopaka side, that I have to believe this started off as a great Ruru. It's just too off. And it's kind of heresy. I know they were probably late into production, but I think this is the smoking gun, that these were not supposed to be the Toa Nuva. Otherwise, it's such a fundamental mistake to make when designing this. It's like, come on. How could you get that wrong? We get recolored Enika feet. We get the wide feet in white, because Matoro had the clawed feet. The Paraka limbs recolored in grey, and oh boy, another grey color scheme. He doesn't really have his shield, which kind of sucks. Again, it feels like with certain character continuities, Hoatu's feet additions are a must. Kopaka's shield is a must, and he doesn't get his shield. He barely has a Toa tool. It's just a bayonet. of the end. I really like that bayonet piece, mind you. I love that piece. It just looks so clean, so neat, works as such a small hand tool. The having both types of connection points at a right angle to one another is really useful for mocking. We see it a lot in the vehicles. I really dig that piece, but it seems it's almost like it doesn't feel like a Toa tool. So I've just shattered over this set. Why is it my number 2? It just looks damn clean. He looks like a future soldier, and it just looks really clean. Like, not having a Toa tool and not having a shield off on the side and all of this stuff, it makes the set look really simple and really clean. And I keep saying clean, neat, and form functional. The fact that he dual wields his Midex Sky Blaster feels like it makes more sense. He looks again like a future soldier sniper type guy. You can see this guy flying in with the wings. He doesn't even have any sort of propulsion. I used to see the matoran connection point on the back, as I imagine that being like a jetpack. But these wing pieces are also so simple, so clean, not over designed, that he just looks really. I'm looking for words other than clean, but clean is the right word here. It executes the idea of what does the future of soldiers look like? This guy. Yeah, I don't know. I'm trying to think of other words. I feel like it's the end of the day here, and I'm running out of brain space. But yeah, there's just something super neat about this guy. It just looks very intentional. It's just the overall harmony of this total model, despite all of the defects and problems I have with it, come together to create such a cool, calm, collected. He looked like he'd be like an efficient flying sniper. And I think that general vibe fits Kopaka very well. Despite the fact that it gets 2 of the fundamental Kopaka elements wrong, it still looks like a Kopaka to me. I being on the wrong side, heinous. Not having a shield, heinous. However, it just works. I think it just looks. This gives a great, fantastic Kopaka vibe, and this thing just looks like a future soldier. I'm saying the same things again and again. I wonder if just having a shield on the back would work. I'm almost thinking now with the new Anthony Mackie Captain America, the Winter Soldier Captain America, how he has wings and a shield, and it kind of works. So maybe he could have pulled off a shield, but I really do think him dual wielding the Midex Sky Blaster like a sniper with the scope on it and the bayonet is really cool, and feels like, yeah, this is a big heavy weapon. You're not just going to be flinging around in one arm like Liwa is. It's something that's quite hefty to wield, and it's pretty powerful. So yeah, I feel like I'm just saying the same thing again and again, so let me stop doing that. So Kopaka is my number 2, based on pure vibes alone. Somehow, by committing 2 cardinal sins against what Kopaka stands for, he resembles Kopaka better than most of these Toa represent their Toa. Number 1, similar to his first form, Pohatu sits at my number 1. There's quite a few reasons, and it isn't just it isn't just Pohatu favoritism, I swear. Because this guy doesn't much look like Pohatu, does he? I feel like this set just feels really creative. I feel like the set feels really unique. I feel like there's just a lot to love here, and even though he doesn't really look like Pohatu, it's another one that I feel like can sort of embody Pohatu in spirit. I spoke in the Mario video how it was great that Kongu introduced this new build. I'm glad to see it used here for the final time. I wish they didn't abandon it. Again, getting these anything new build-wise in these subsequent waves was getting less and less common, so anything new that we got was great. Yeah, and it was an awesome reuse of the Hordika limbs for this body. I know Pohatu had the flipped torso, but I think we all kind of buy that Pohatu can also carry the Bruiser build, so it just really felt like, unlike with Onua, they took some actual consideration for the fact that this is a Toa of Stone. Again, I don't mind Pohatu being depicted as quite big. I do like the fact that when they were keeping things generic, like in Bionicle the game, that they gave Onua and Pohatu the same build. I think that makes sense to me. The upside down torso is great and iconic, but doesn't work everywhere. Like, I think with the Inika style builds, you really wouldn't be able to do that upside down torso thing. We were also past the sort of abstract kooky weirdness of the original era, and these are becoming more established kind of humanoid figures, so any weirdness like that would be a bit strange. So I think this build was a good idea to give Pohatu. One thing I'll say is to facilitate the matoran connection on the back, we got the kind of the upgraded slicer foot here instead of what Kongu had, which was the Metru chest. I think it would have been better with a Metru chest, but it would have required extra pieces, and from most angles it's fine. This piece is bent in the CG image, so it's a bit, I guess, misleading. It's bent here as well. Do we have just a... No, that is not the right Pohatu. That's his vehicle version. Yeah, I mean, it's fine. This piece also is very flat. I mentioned this in the Mari video as well. The thinner Inika body actually fits perfectly over it. Basically the one that Kobaka Fantoka uses. The pipes that connect that to the Inika body actually fit perfectly in these slots, so you can easily overlay armor here. Even if you want to grab this off the back of the vehicle Mystica Pohatu, you can. I think going for orange was a bold choice. Orange historically wasn't a stone color. Back in 2001, pure orange was earth and fire. However, with sets like Huki being dark orange, and again with the element and color overlaps between stone and earth, orange makes sense as a Toa of Stone. Even characters like the Thing, who is a famous stone rocky character, is pretty orange. I think we can buy orange as a stone color. It's kind of winked out at the store in the story as well that, haha, why am I orange? Toa Nuva, why are you a Shadow Toa? They have like a little exchange, which is kind of cute. I really, really, really like the arms. I was moaning about how the proportions of Huki look ridiculous. Here, it's different because it has purpose. Like, this feels like a super exaggerated weapon type thing. The upper limbs match the lower limbs, while he has these giant the housing for the weapons here feels intentional. It doesn't feel like he just weirdly has long arms. You'd almost imagine that Pohatu has, you know, correct arms that are just kind of grasping the inside of these tools. I know some people in the comments of previous shorts that I've made about these weapons have said that, you know, their versions didn't have enough friction, so the claw clamp things would flop around. For me, as a kid, they were actually decent for me. So I think that varies on the piece. But I really like how creative this is. The fact that, you know, he has it in a drill format. You spin the axle at the back and they unfurl and become the propellers. Really creative. This is what they feel. This feels like a callback to early Bionicles. You know, they're not gear functions, but he has a technic function that is well integrated into the set, and is really. It's good for the theme. Like, you know, for aerial Toa, how are we going to create different creative ways to give them propulsion? Giving Onua drills and propellers and claws in one feels suited to the character. It's just a really creative build and gives this set further functions. He has his Mighty Sky Blaster on his shoulder, copying Naparu, but again, this is adaptive armor. There's some technological aspect to his armor that's doing it for him. It kind of feels like a bit of a war machine type thing. And I guess because he's not wielding on his arm, it doesn't look like he's lugging this thing over like Liwa does, so I quite like it there. Just because of the angle of the Hodi Connect, it's sometimes posing it's a bit hindered, but what can you do? And lots of orange recolors here. People who know myself mock is Ganon, which borrows heavily from the set, which is probably a reason why he's my favorite. But I do like all of the orange recolors. Using the Paraka bodies give him quite a thickness to his limbs that convey strength. Similar to Kongu, I don't like how incredibly short they made him. It works in a vacuum, but when you see him next to the other Toa Nuva, he is tiny. Pohatu was shorter. Actually, was he shorter? He had a unique build. I don't think he was necessarily like short, super short, but he's tiny because of this build. I don't know why Lego. Well, I know why Lego did it. We paired the short thighs and short shins together because those pieces sort of work well together, but it lends Pohatu to being really. It makes Pohatu really, really short. Biggest tragedy, I think, of this set, which pisses me off, is the fact that he doesn't have his feet additions. I think they could have done it. You know, Matora Mari last wave had Mada feet, and I complained about them being too small. You put feet additions on this set, and I feel like you could do it. If you gave him Photox orange feet and gave him feet additions, I think it would have worked. The flat feet do work with this stocky squat build, but I think getting feet additions would have been better, and it feels like heresy to not have them here. But, you know, it is what it is. I guess the adaptive armor said, no, Poatu, you no longer have control of your feet, you suck. Which is a shame. Poatu's mask is, it's a big departure. Everyone says it looks like the Vahi, because it's orange, and the fact that it's like half a mask. I don't know if it's a crazy take from me, but I can sort of see some Kakama elements to it, you know, with the focus on the fact that most of the bulk is on the cheeks, the round mouth. Even the way that the Metru head goes through the dome resembles that notch that the Kakama had. Photok obviously being a version, essentially the corresponding Matoran mask of this, definitely captures Kakama really well. So when that was canonized as the noble Kakama, absolutely makes sense. This set as well to me, it's a bit of a stretch, but I can buy this as a Kakama. Only problem is it's not a Kakama, it's a Kakama Nuva, and it doesn't look like that mask at all. So it's like, you know, you nearly got there. And it's another one like Liwa, where the vehicle form, in a weird way, it's almost like this is the Mada, this is the Nuva, in terms of resemblance, because this spiky body. This vehicle design is fucking terrible. It just looks absolutely terrible. I like the Rocco T3, and I guess they had to do it this way, just because they had to keep the piece count down, so they gave him a generic Anika build, but yeah, why is it silver? Why is the body backwards? I mean, I guess we got this recolored, which was great, but then we got it in Akar next year, so it wasn't super needed. Yeah, this build is ridiculous. But yeah, Poatu overall, I think his strengths and his creativity works for me. There's some certain elements to him that give him Pohatu-ish qualities. I can't say he's an exact match for Poatu, and he definitely, you know, on face value doesn't particularly resemble him. But, you know, there were some considerations that this is a Toa of Stone. Let's give him a strong, stocky build. And yeah, I just think in terms of his build, it was really creative to see what they did with the aerial concept with him. Instead of, again, first thought does go to stick a jetpack, stick some wings on them. But Poatu really kind of pulled out the extra stops and gave us a real, almost Technic-based function that feels closer to what Bionicles should be. But yeah, that's my list. I'm not sure if I have much to say. These are not a great fit for the Toa. I think it's kind of sad that these are the forms that the Toa went out on, considering most of them are really poor fits for their characters. Even worse is the fact that Tahu doesn't even have adaptive armor right now, or is a Nuva, so we have 5 adaptive armor Nuva walking around, and one of them is randomly Mada. Weird. Really weird. But yeah, I don't know. This might be my safest list yet. I think most people will probably agree here. Probably maybe disagree with my Fantoka ranking. I think Kopaka might be a controversial pick because he is a very boring stock standard build with nothing that really stands out on him, but he just ends up looking very cool. But yeah, let me know your thoughts in the comments. Do you completely disagree with me? Do you agree with me? What team or what line of sets you want me to rank next? Yeah, animation coming soon. I'm going to keep saying it, and I'm going to keep putting these out as long as people care to listen. If you hate these, tell me you hate these. If you hate me, tell me you hate me. And I will see you on the next one. Bye bye.